You know, saying you want something, it feels like it should be one of the first things you learn in any new language, right? But in Japanese, it's actually a classic stumbling block for learners. And that's because how you say it completely changes depending on who is doing the wanting. If you get this wrong, you'll just sound a little unnatural. But if you get it right, well, you've just unlocked a really deep insight into how the language works. It's all about perspective.
So it all starts with this one little word, Hoshi. At first glance, it seems simple enough. It's an adjective that means is wanted. And this is our building block for pretty much any kind of desire. But, and this is the really important part, there's a huge catch. This word comes with a very specific rule about who you're allowed to use it for.
Okay, so this brings us to the big question, right? If Hoshi is pretty much reserved for talking about your own feelings, your own wants, then how in the world do you talk about what somebody else wants? Japanese grammar has this really interesting built-in idea that you can't actually know what's going on inside someone else's mind. And because of that, we need a whole different set of tools to talk about their desires.
So, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll get a solid handle on talking about your own wants. Easy enough. Then, we'll dive into the 2 clever ways you can talk about what other people want, either by quoting what they've said or by describing what you can see. And to wrap it all up, we'll put all these rules together so you can see them side by side.
All right, first things first, let's build our foundation, talking about yourself. This is the most direct and common way to use this grammar, and it's where Hoshi works just like you'd think it would.
The pattern here is actually super simple. You just take the thing you want, pop the particle ga right after it, and then finish it with hoshi desu. That little ga particle is key. It's like a spotlight that shines directly on the thing you desire.
Let's see what this looks like in a few sentences. Mizu ga hoshi desu means I want water. And here's the best part. Hoshi is what's called an I adjective, which means it plays by all the regular rules you probably already know. Want to say you don't want something? It becomes hoshikunai. Talking about something you wanted in the past? It's hoshikatta. See, it's totally consistent.
Okay, so we've got the basics down for talking about ourselves. Simple enough, right? Now for the fun part, the complication. Because the language assumes you're not a mind reader, you can't just come out and say someone else hoshi something. Instead, Japanese gives us 2 really elegant ways to talk about their desires from the outside.
So, how do you figure out which one to use? Well, it all comes down to a simple question. How do you know what they want? Did they actually tell you? If so, you're going to act like a reporter and quote their words. Or are you just picking up on clues, observing their behavior? Well, that needs a totally different approach. Let's start with quoting.
Okay, let's tackle the first method. This one's pretty straightforward. I want you to just think of yourself as a news reporter. Your job isn't to guess what they're feeling, it's just to accurately report the words they used.
The structure for this is really logical when you think about it. What you're basically doing is taking the exact phrase they would say, thing ga hoshi, and you're wrapping it inside this other phrase, to itte imasu, which just means, is saying that. So you're literally just reporting what they said. And notice, the particle is still ga because it's part of the quote.
You can see just how cleanly this works. Ken says he wants a new smartphone, so we take his personal thought, sumaho ga hoshi, and we package it as a report, to itteimasu. My mother says she doesn't want the dress, so we report her feeling in the negative, hoshiku nai to itteimasu. In both of these cases, we aren't claiming to know what's in their heads, only what came out of their mouths.
But what happens when people don't spell it out for you, right? Just picture a little kid, their nose pressed right up against the window of a candy store. They haven't said a word, but you can see the desire on their face. This is where we have to switch gears from reporting to observing.
Now, to talk about what we observe, the grammar does something really cool. The adjective hoshi actually morphs into a whole new verb, hoshigatteimasu. That ending, gatteimasu, is like a special attachment you add to words in Japanese when you're talking about the visible signs of someone else's emotions. It's the grammar version of saying they seem to be or they're showing signs of wanting.
And this right here, this is the biggest clue in the whole system. When the grammar changes, the particle changes with it. When you're observing someone's desire with hoshigatteimasu, the particle that points to the object they want switches from ga to wo. This is a massive difference. Ga hoshi is what you feel. Wo hoshigatteimasu is what you see.
So let's see this in action. We see the kid staring at the candy, right? So we say, okashi o hoshigatte imasu.
We're observing my sister spending hours looking at shoes online, so we can say kutsu o hoshigatte imasu. We're not reading minds. We're simply describing the actions we can see. And that's why we have to use this verb form with the o particle.
All right, so we've looked at all the different pieces, our own wants, what people say they want, and what they seem to want. Now let's pull them all together into one simple chart to make the whole picture crystal clear.
This table really brings it all home. Just look at the pattern here. For anything that involves a direct internal feeling, whether it's your own or someone else's that you are quoting, the particle is always ga, and the key word is hoshi. But the second you switch to being an outside observer, everything changes. The pattern becomes hoshi gatte imasu, and, just as importantly, the particle flips to wool.
And that really brings us to the main takeaway of all this. The grammar you need to pick isn't about what's being wanted, it's all about your perspective as a speaker. Are you talking from inside a person's head, or are you looking at them from the outside? Once you answer that simple question, you'll know exactly which grammar to use every single time.
So, now it's your turn to put this into motion. Start with the easy one. Using that ga hoshi pattern, what's something you want right now? Go ahead, say it out loud. Mastering how to talk about your own desire is that perfect first step. And from there, you can start really listening for what other people say and watching for the signs of what they want. You've got all the tools now.